Hello everybody and welcome back. This is part 12 of our Trumpeter 1/200 scale HMS Hood build. In this video we'll be finishing off the construction of the upper part of the bridge that we started in part 11, and a couple of people have asked me to cover the painting sequence for that in this part, so I'm going to do that to start off with. Then we're going to finish off with the detailing of this structure. So with a couple of the pom-pom directors to build, they go on the bridge wings at the back. And there are some air lookout binoculars to build, 6 of those that fit inside. So we're going to have to do those at a fairly early stage. And then the rest of the structure has some ladders in various locations that connect it with the Admiral's Bridge below. And run up the sides of the structure, all the access ladders and so on, and there are some railings as well to fit. Then we've got to move on to the air defence platform, so I'll be building that and fitting it to the top of the compass platform here, the compass platform roof. And then finally there's a small extension to build which encompasses the foremast itself, also on the roof of the bridge. And hopefully at the end of the video we'll be able to fit the finished bridge on top of the Admiral's Bridge platform, and at that stage the forward part of the bridge structure will be completed, and we can then move back and get some of the other structures done on the shelter deck. So we'll first of all cover the painting sequence, and I'll get this bridge over and we'll start the painting. So we just need to pull this structure apart for painting. I said in part 11 that once I'd put this platform in, I didn't want to pull it apart again, but I'm going to have to do for painting to get a neat finish between the deck and the grey of the structure around it. So I'm just carefully going to ease this off, hopefully without doing any damage. There we, just easing it off. Okay. Just got a bit of cleanup to do. Just got some excess glue in here. It chips off fairly easily. These two pieces here, they're useful because we can paint them separately in the linoleum brown colour, and then we can just slot them in afterwards once we've done the grey. I'm assuming I can get them in afterwards. They're a bit of a tight fit. Yeah, they'll go in. So these are all the separate sections. So all the bridge parts have now been painted in the grey. I'll have to go back in and do a bit more painting of the grey later on, once we've assembled all the parts. The next step is to mask off some of the parts for painting. So we're going to be doing the brown decks next. I'm not going to be able to mask everything off because I'm just frightened of pulling off some of these etched brass pieces. But this is a completely plastic part, so I'm going to be able to mask off around here, around this screen, and this deck house at the back. And that'll just enable me to paint the surface of the deck in the quarter scene. This part's a bit more complex. I've got these two inserts which can go in the forward section, the depressed part of the deck. So I'm just going to have to carefully go in and paint the after part of the platform. in the brown cortesine colour, and then I'll have to go in and go around the shields on the inside and use a brush to paint the grey in on the shields. I'm not going to be able to use masking tape because it'll just pull these fragile parts apart. So we'll just go over and get the brown parts painted. I've gone back in now with the grey and touched up around the sides of these shields. And with this platform, I'm going to have to go and brush paint the inside of this rear shield. The forward was masked off, so I'm okay with that. So just a little bit more work and then we can start to pop these together. So I've done the decks in the brown representing the cortesine, and I've masked off so that the paint doesn't get everywhere. For this structure, which is all etched brass, I've used little bits of post-it notes and basically just push them in without getting them to stick, and that just keeps the overspray off, or reduces the amount of overspray going to the forward part of the structure here. I'm going to have to go in and brush paint the inside of the shield on the outside and the back parts of these bulkheads here. I masked off the inside of the shield where the pom-pom director is. So that's got a fairly neat line around the bottom there. But obviously we still need to go back and do the grey again, where I've not been able to mask it all off. And with these parts, it's really just a case of going backwards and forwards between the two colours until you're happy with them, or at least that's my method. There comes a point where you're just going backwards and forwards all the time, so it's best to just leave it be. But I'll just go back in and touch the grey up again on these two parts. These two pieces of etched brass slot into these forward parts, so that's why I try to preserve the grey on this interior here. It's just so that I can drop those decks in there and get a nice neat finish. I'm going to go in now and brush paint these the inside of this screen. You can see that I've already put in one of these separate decks. They just slide in from the side, and that's just given us a nice neat edge there. This is our grey, superstructure grey. This will need more than one coat to cover. This paint's pretty well thinned for airbrushing, but it'll cover in 2 coats. I've been in now and touched in all the insides of these screens in the grey, so I'm happy enough with that. I'm not going to do any more. I find that you just go backwards and forwards with these colours sometimes, and ending up making more of a mess than you started with, so I'm going to leave it at that. One of the problems that we have when painting parts with a brush as opposed to an airbrush, it's not the colour match that's difficult, it's getting the finish to match up. In other words, the reflectance of the paint. Often brush painted paint comes out with a higher gloss than airbrush paint. So what I'm going to do with these to level them up a bit is to give them a coat of varnish, and the nearest match to this Tamiya paint is an Alclad light sheen, it's called, and it matches the sheen of the paint up pretty well. So I'll do that once I've got the parts installed. The first thing I want to do is to get this platform back on the structure here, and if you remember, it was a very tight fit, so hopefully we won't do too much damage scratching the parts again. We're going to have to do another bit of touching up here and there when this is finished. That's gone in okay. One thing I forgot to do was to just touch in the scuttles on the inside of this part, so I'm just going to have to reach in and do those before I go any further. So if you're using this method, don't forget to do that. This part doesn't match up yet. I haven't painted the front end of the bridge because it has some etch brass parts to fit on it. I'll glue those in place and then spray the front of the structure here. And I'm using some gloss dark grey that I used for the conning tower slits. Would have been easier to do these beforehand, but I forgot. That's okay, they're difficult to see anyway, but obviously do them beforehand if you're gonna use the same method as this. Obviously with it being gloss paint, you just get that slight reflection as though there's windows in there. Whilst I've got this paint out, I'll just do these back windows that I just daren't try and cut them out, so I'll just fill them in with some of the same gloss grey. They're actually screened by the rear of the tripod mast, which goes up behind them, so they're not that obvious. That looks alright. Now I can't put this platform on yet because there are 3 air lookout binoculars to fit here, and they look through this screen, so I'm going to have to make those up now, and I'll fit them to the platform, and then the platform can go up onto this part. These are the parts for the air lookout binoculars. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different etched brass parts, and these turned brass which are the main column of the ALO. So obviously they need breaking up into 5 different sections. There's 5 of them on that one strip. So I'll just do that with, I can just roll those in a knife. To separate them. So those are the parts that we need, and these are the instructions for the ALO, page 13 on the Pontos instruction sheet. So we've basically got the binoculars themselves, which is part 102, that needs a fold over. This frame here holds the binocular onto the stem. Then this part 104 is the seat arrangement, so the crew member sat on this seat to look through the binoculars, and there's a bracket which fits onto the front of the stem, and finally 2 base rings that go to the bottom. So the first thing I'm going to do is fit the bracket to the front of the actual stand. These parts are too small to just hold in the hand, so I'm going to bring in my helping hands just to hold the part. The next thing I'll do is put the seat on. That's this part 104, and there's a bracket at the front that actually attaches to the stem, so that needs to be bent through 90 degrees, and these can be adjusted once they're actually on the part. And then the seat needs to be bent down onto the frame. They don't need any glue, they're so small that they'll just hold in place. I'm using extra thin super glue for these. The next thing I'll do is make up the bracket which holds the actual binoculars onto the stand. So that's the bracket, and then we have the binoculars themselves, which we just need to fold those in half. When I did this first one, I had some difficulty getting the binoculars onto the stand, so I'm going to try a different way this time and try and build them off the stand. These are the air lookout binoculars, ready to be painted. Well, actually I've painted this one just to see what it looked like, but the others are just primed. You can see how small they are compared with this 2p piece here. So they've got 7 parts in each one, and they probably took the best part of an hour each to build, and we're now going to hide them away inside this platform here. So I'll just get over and get those painted, and then we can get them installed. These lookouts fit into these holes on this platform here, so I'll give each one a little dab of medium super glue. Just want to make sure they're nice and square. We need 3 on the other side as well. that's the ALOs in place, and I just want to go in and just paint the seats that are on the back of these in this leather sort of red colour. Just adds a tiny bit of interest if anybody looks in there. I've absolutely no idea if there were red leather, but I think it's called artistic license. Just adds a tiny splash of detail into the part. So I can now fit this platform onto the underside. I have to be careful doing this. Very gently. The thing now to do with this part is just to make sure it's all completely horizontal. So in other words, the top of the screen here is level with the deck house behind, which it is. So we've got plastic to plastic here, so I can use a bit of poly cement and then the outside of the etched brass screen just needs to be tacked onto the underside of the platform here. So I'll just run some thin glue into that, some thin super glue. So I just want to make sure I've got it located where I want it. And then I can just run some super glue into that joint. I don't want to do too much because I don't want it flooding out onto the deck underneath. And unfortunately I got some on my finger there and it's just come out onto the side of the screen. That's a shame, but I can just tidy that up and touch it up with some paint. I can go ahead now and fit the lower part of the bridge, and I'm just going to use a spot of thick super glue on the panels at the side and at the front, just in the middle. Just like that set up. And once I've added the detailing to the front and sides here, I can then paint the whole assembly in the grey, just touch up, especially around here where I got the glue on. And the bit that floats around at the back here, that just needs adjusting onto the correct shape once I've got it onto the deck. So I'll just fix the front end, this section here around the front. Just take some of the reinforcing strip that I use for these things. And I'll do this side panel as well because I just want it to be parallel to the bridge side. So here, these outcroppings here and this trailing wing I'm going to leave because that needs adjusting to the shape on the Admiral's Bridge platform that's already on the ship. So that's just a case of getting this parallel to the structure above. Now I want to add the detail parts to the front. The first thing I'll do is fit the, what I think is actually the chart desk. Inside here on the compass platform on this corner there was a chart table that looks as though it folded away, and my best guess is that it folded into this receptacle on the outside of the ship. I don't know that for sure, but it seems the most likely. Then there are two strakes that fit to the front. And finally we've got some tiny brackets that just go under the platform windows. Okay, so we're back from painting now, so I've done all the bridge, and really the trick with filling in the bits that we left is just to angle the airbrush upwards so that it preserves the colour on the decks. So all the touch-ups are done facing upwards. I had to paint the tops of the chart table here, and when I did that I just got a piece of paper mask to prevent any overspray onto this forward part of this deck here. So I'm pretty happy that that's done with. I've just got the detail work to do now, fitting the ladders and so on, but compared with what we've done so far, then that's relatively easy, I think. And you can see the ALOs lined up inside these screens. That's a nice touch. Once I've done the detailed work on the ladders and so on, I can do the work on the air defence platform, which is this. I'm not going to glaze the windows until right at the end, just before I fit the bridge to the rest of the model. So that's come out pretty well, I think. So after all that work, I'm going to reward myself with one of our Christmas chocolates. Can't have too many of these. So cheers everybody. Strawberry. So one or two people asked for me to cover that painting sequence, so I hope that helps those of you that want to follow a similar sort of process. The next thing I'm going to do is the air defence platform, which is this trumpeter part here, which we're going to modify, and also building the Afterbridge, which is this brass section and which sits on top of this house here and round the foremast. So I just need to prepare this air defence platform, and the trumpeter part is going to need just these mouldings removing from the bottom. And the other problem that we've got with this in terms of the Pontos set is a mistake in the Pontos etched brass, and that relates to this section here. So this floor, part 33, has this etching in it which is designed for this etched brass platform, but there's been a mistake somewhere because the air defence platform didn't have this raised step on it. Interestingly, the compass platform, which is the platform just underneath the air defence platform, did have a raised step, and it was this shape as well, and I'm just wondering if Pontos have just got the drawings mixed up and assumed that what they were looking at here on the compass platform was actually the air defence platform. But anyway, the air defence platform just had a flat floor, so what I'm going to do is, this is a symmetrical part, so I'm just going to turn it over so that it's got a flat surface on it, and that'll just drop into the plastic trumpeter part. And that's, again, it's useful because that's going to allow me to paint that in a slightly different colour to the rest of the structure. So I'm going to do this first. We'll get on with modifying this part and just cleaning it up, and then we can start fitting the etched brass. We need to do the floor, and there's also these wind deflectors which go around the front of the screens here, and they're supported by these little brackets that need to be fitted. So let's get on with that cleanup. The first thing I'll do is get rid of these protrusions on the floor. So I'll just check that that's flush and that this floor will just drop in, which it does. Trumpeter have moulded the support struts on that, which I'm pleased about because the etched brass ones are very, very fiddly to fit. So that'll be a bit of a time saver. And there's a sprue attachment gate it's right on the edge of this moulding, so I want to get rid of that as well. Okay, that's fine. And I'll also clean up the wind deflector parts, just get rid of the connection points from the frets. So I'm going to start with the front one, and these small brackets, tiny brackets, fit into these slots at the back, and the end one here is folded up, so that forms the end of the deflector. And the easiest way that I found to do this when I did the deflectors on the bridge base in an earlier part was to fit the main length and then slide in the little brackets from either above or below, rather than trying to assemble them onto the part and then glue the whole part. It's a little bit wide actually, a fraction wide. If I can pinch a little bit. I don't think that method's going to work. I think I'm going to have to put the parts, the braces, onto the brass first, because it looks as though there isn't enough room. So I'll have to do it that way. I'll fit the brackets on first and then we'll just slide the part on. Obviously try not to get it on the mat, otherwise you'll just glue the whole assembly onto the cutting mat. And the end piece I've taken off, and I'm just going to pinch a bit of space. You remember it was just a bit too wide, just a fraction, but I'm just going to take a tiny bit off the end of the strip, and then I can refit the end piece. So that can now go on the front of the bridge. That's the front deflector fitted. which was a bit of a trial, I have to say, but anyway, it's on now. These side pieces will need to have a curve bent into them to go around this semicircular moulding here. So that's this part in the middle that's got the little ribs on it. I'll just roll that in on the sponge pad, and then we obviously have to straighten up beyond that, so I think that'll be about right. So if I make the bends for the front and at the back, we'll just try that for size. That's pretty good. I'll glue that on actually. So I'll tack it to the back. And we can get that fixed with some of the super thin at the front. And I'll also reinforce that join at the back. So I've got the side baffles in now, and I just need now to slide in the little brackets that go down the sides, and I'm not using any glue at this stage. I just want to push them in. The spring in the parts will hold them in place until I can run some super thin glue down the sides. So I've got the wind deflectors on all the way around. They were quite tricky to get done. The little brackets at the back are pretty tough to get in, but with a bit of fiddling around, they've gone in eventually. So I'm just going to get that over to the paint booth and prime that, just to set it up, and then we'll come back and do the Afterbridge here. So that's all primed, ready for a coat of paint. So I'm going to move on to the Afterbridge. That sits on top here, obviously with the foremast going through the hole in the middle there. We have some bending to do here, and we have a curve as well on the front that just needs to radius round this bit of the platform here, which is at the back. So as we've done before, I'm just going to roll that corner. So that's not the full bend, but it's somewhere near. So I'll just fold the shields up at the side. It'll just tell me how far I am away with that bend at the back. The shield angles in at the back, and it's got another 2 bends on it actually. So there's some engravings on the deck here which shows you the angle that you're looking for, and they're just helpful to look down on as you're making the bend. and then these railings will fold up at the back, but I'll do those last. I just want to adjust this bend on the curved part of the shield. So I'll do those looking down with the piece flat on the table. That's just adjusted that curve on the back there using the tweezers. As I said, it would be easy with some round nose pliers. And a bit like we had on the Admiral's Bridge, we've got some little fillets or support pieces to put in here, which will just tack the shields into place. These brackets will add a little bit of strength, even though they're so tiny. They do support the shield. I want to get all the rest of the detail parts ready now. So there's lots of ladders and railings to fit. These Pontos ladders are really nicely detailed. Whether you can see that they have the lightning holes down the side, and with a bit of care it's possible to bend up the steps, which we'll just do with these tweezers. Just get them in between the rungs and give them a bit of a squeeze, and they'll just snap up. I'll just prepare all of these parts ready for priming, painting, then we can fit them onto the bridge. The thing that I do on a complex stage like this is to just mark off when I've taken the part out ready for use, because it's very easy to miss. I've virtually finished the bridge before I realised that I'd missed these two parts off here, which are just little ledges under the windows next to the where the ALOs sit. So just checking them off like this just makes sure that we're not going to miss anything. I've got all the last bits of detailing parts that I need for the bridge structure here. So there's all the ladders and railings. We've also got a flag locker here that fits on the back of the compass platform here. I've already bent the railings where they need bending, and I've just to do that I've just held them up to the shape of the deck that they need to be following. So I'll get these over, get them primed, and we can finally get them fitted to the ship. We can finally get them fitted to the bridge here. So I'm going to start with the ladders that connect the compass platform with the platform below. So I just need to use some thick super glue for this, for the ladders, because it needs such a small amount that anything thinner than the thick super glue just evaporates. So that's the first one in. Okay. There's not an awful lot of room under the air defence platform extension. I maybe should have, with hindsight, I'd have fitted that later. And I have a couple of railings that just go to the side of that just to protect the walkway, and in this case I'll apply glue to the part, which is a tiny drop of medium super glue. These railings and ladders might just need the slightest touch up afterwards, because it's pretty difficult to get them in without scratching them. Next we've got a pair of ladders that run up the back here and up onto the air defence platform, which is these small ones here. I'm just going to apply some glue to the bottom of these. So what to do next? I think I'll glaze the windows now, because then I can put the air defence platform and the Afterbridge on and then fit the ladders at the back. So as always, it's a case of working out which way to go with some of these. So this is crystal clear. Let's see if we can get them into these windows. Nearly. The knack with crystal clear, particularly on a fairly big window like this, is to get just the right amount that will be enough to stretch over the space that you want, but not be too much to absolutely flood the area. These are about on the edge of what crystal clear will cope with. But as I said earlier on in the video, it would be very difficult to get any sort of acetate in there. Again, I've got out of sequence again really, and blocked these windows off, or at least the front one. Got it, there we go. You notice that that one's actually pulled over, but I'll just leave the other ones to go hard before I go back in and do that one again. So whilst we're waiting for the windows, I'll carry on with some more of the railings. It's very difficult to get these railings on without getting a little bit of glue onto the deck, but I think I mentioned before that a coat of matte varnish will sort that out. It's very tempting to fiddle around with these parts, but try and resist. It doesn't generally improve the situation, so a lot of the time it's a case of living with what you've got. We have a flag locker to fit in into this part here. These flag lockers are quite awkward, and that's because the contact point is very small. It's got 4 minuscule legs at the bottom, so trying to get enough cement is quite tricky. And again, it's another reason why you have to use the thick super glue to get little dots of glue onto the bottom of the leg. The thick type's the only thing that will work with a part like this. So I'll fit the Afterbridge now, this part. I'll use some thick for this. I just want a bit of time to adjust the position, and it has to fit round the foremast, which is this part. So obviously the platform's got to be central, otherwise the foremast won't go in. I'll fit the platform and then put the foremast straight in dry, so that I know that it's going to fit. That's gone in pretty well, actually. This crystal clear has taken an age to dry. I don't know whether it's because it's cold, but it's been in about half an hour now and it's still not gone off. I hope it does go off. So between the air defence platform and the Afterbridge, we've got these little steps that need to go up. Sometimes these parts just refuse to come off the tweezers, and then other times they'll fall off when you don't want them. So it can be a frustrating hobby at times. And we've got another two small steps that fit in here as the deck drops down on the compass platform. So I've managed to get all the detail parts on now, and I just need to go around and do some very minor touch-ups. So just where the railings have gone in and one or two of the steps and so on, they just need a very slight brush paint just to remove any scratches. There aren't many at all, actually. I've done reasonably okay with that. So that didn't need too much, really. But obviously, if you haven't covered the brass, it does stand out a bit if you've not got paint on it. So it does tend to glint and be quite noticeable. So here we are back at the model now, and I've just temporarily positioned the upper part of the bridge on the Admiral's Bridge platform that we built in part 11. And I'll spend some time over the next couple of days fitting this permanently. Before then, I'll just have to glaze the bottom windows and fit some of the bits of accommodation that we prepared earlier on in this video. So hopefully I'll get that done in the next couple of days before we come back for part 13. I'm pretty happy with the way that this came out. It's been just over a week's work to get just this top part done, and there's some quite involved etch brass work to be done on it. But that's all done now, and I've just got one or two bits of I've just got one or two things to finish off with the ladders and some bits of railing and so on, and I'm finally going to fit the rail around the back of the Admiral's Bridge platform. So when we come back for part 13, that'll all be done, hopefully. So looking at the structure from aft, a lot of the detail is at the back, with all the ladders and railings running up the back of the platforms, and that looks nice and busy now. As I said, I've just got some more ladders to fit, which will join these decks up. I've got the screen to repair that I snapped off earlier on, which goes here at the side. So I'll get that work done in the next day or two, hopefully, and I'll review that finished bridge in the beginning of and I'll review the finished bridge at the beginning of part 13. So we'll catch up on that finished bridge in part 13. But I want to move on in part 13 to some of the other structures further aft on the ship. And I'm going to be starting off in part 13 by building the funnel bases and also tackling the trumpeter funnels, which I've already started to prepare. Many of you will be aware that Trumpeter made their biggest gaffe with this model with the moulding of the funnels, because they did them in two different sizes. There's a smaller one, the aft one is smaller than the forward one. So we're going to have to fix that. On the rail ship, the funnels were more or less identical. So we're going to have to do some work on the aft funnel to get it to the right size. The way that I'm going to do that I described in the review of the Pontos set earlier on in this series. So if you want to follow that particular part of the process, just have a look back at that particular video and you'll see how I'm going to tackle the correction of these funnels. So that'll be coming up in part 13, and hopefully we can get the funnels corrected and the bases all done and ready to fit onto the ship. So I'll be glad to get away from the bridge structure for a little while. It's been quite a difficult part of the build, and to move on to something different. So that'll be part 13 next Friday the 8th of January, by which time all the Christmas lights will have come down in the shed and we'll be back into a new year. Hopefully it'll be a better one than 2020 and we can all get back to some sort of normality hopefully later on in the year. So I hope you've had a good Christmas and a happy new year to you all. I'm sure that 2021 will be a lot better than last year. So just to say thanks for watching over the last few months, and we'll move into 2021 with continuing the build, and I'll see you next week for part 13. Bye for now.